Hey everybody. I just wanted to have a little bit of a talk about privilege. I'm seeing a lot of misunderstandings about what privilege is and what privilege is not. Whether these conversations are happening person to person, whether they're happening at work, whether they're happening on Facebook, Insta, whatever. Um, we're kind of missing the mark when we're addressing privilege. So I want you to just consider, what do you think privilege is? Does privilege mean that you have never had hardships? No. Does it mean that you don't go through hard things? Absolutely not. We're all human. Does it mean that you don't have disadvantages created by the system? It doesn't mean that either. When we're talking about white privilege, we're talking about a system. And when we're talking about privilege in general, we're talking about that same system. So, one point from So You Want to Talk About Race is that privilege is an advantage or a set of advantages others don't have. That's pretty simple. An advantage or a set of advantages others do not have. We all have privilege in some way, which means that others have disadvantage because of our privilege. And I think that's where the hard part of privilege comes in, right? Like, people want to get stuck in that space because acknowledging privilege can make you feel bad, it can make you feel guilty. Um, it can actually cause you to discredit the experiences of other people because you don't want to acknowledge your privilege because you don't want to feel bad, which are all normal reactions to talking about privilege, but it's important to move past that. One way that we can kind of get in a space of thinking about how to address privilege is really thinking about our own privileges. And we call it, in the social justice world or the education world, whatever you want to say, checking your privilege, right? So I want to read to you a small passage from So You Want to Talk About Race. And if you're looking for a place to start informing yourself, this is a really great book. It has a lot of information. The chapters are laid out by basically different topics, so you can read about it if you want to learn more about what racism is, if you want to learn more about what white privilege is, well, just privilege, I'm sorry. If you want to learn about police brutality, you can learn about all of that here and a lot more. But this is what she says in her book. Asking you to pause and consider how the advantages you've had in your life are contributing to your opinions and actions, and how the lack of disadvantages in certain areas is keeping you from fully understanding the struggles others are facing, may in fact be contributing to those struggles. So, to me, that's the most powerful statement I've read in this book in relation to what's going on in the world right now. All people are asking people to do is recognize, like, this may not be your experience. Specifically as a white person, it may not be your experience of, encountering police treating you unfairly, or maybe it is. But recognize that a lot of people have these experiences because you have that privilege, so we have that disadvantage. Um, I will talk more about what you can do about that later. And So You Want to Talk About Race, she also really points out the fact that it's it's a big ask to ask people to check your privilege. It's hard, even for me. But another quote that it addresses is, it's not nearly as painful as living with the pain caused by the unexamined privilege of others. Um, it is hard to check your privilege, but let's be real. If we don't, those people are going to keep living with the sets of disadvantages that they are given by our privilege. To be completely transparent, I wrote my own list of privileges because as a social justice educator, it's important for me to go back to these norms and humble my own self and my privileges. So a few of my privileges are, I'm straight, I have light skin, I'm a Christian, I'm able-bodied, I'm biracial, I'm a documented US citizen, I'm neurotypical, I'm educated. So those are just a few ways that I'm privileged. And in those times, the way that I can address and leverage my privilege is by sticking up for the people and standing in the gap for the people who have disadvantage because of my privilege. For example, as a lighter skinned biracial person, there are people who have much darker skin than mine, and society views them differently than me. It's important for me when I see those people targeted for whatever reason that I stand up for them and say, hey, well, why did you say this thing? And as a teacher, that happens oftentimes. We read books about melanin and we talk about these things because it's important for children to understand so they don't grow up with these ideas. People have darker skin because they were growing up in tropical places or warmer places closer to the sun where their skin needed protection. It's as simple as that. Um, but there's a lot of constructs, especially in the US, well, actually worldwide, about colorism. Another one is Christianity. If I see someone being targeted for being a Muslim, I can, or following Islam, I can leverage my privilege by standing up for them or creating spaces for them. As a teacher, I leverage my privilege by looking at this list and thinking, okay, I'm light skinned, so we don't talk about this. What can I do to bring that to the forefront? Oh, we don't talk about maybe undocumented people don't have the same space as me. What can I do to elevate these issues and like put these people on top because they haven't been there? And I think that's all about what addressing privilege really is. It's not saying like you're a horrible person because you have privilege. The system was designed to give certain people privileges and others disadvantages based on a lot of reasons. So, moving forward, start with your list. Seriously, start with your list. And as tempting as it may be to focus on disadvantages, it's not really helpful. You want to use your privilege to empower. You want to leverage that privilege and really use it as a tool. Like we all have privilege, and one thing I've been seeing during this time is a lot of my white friends are utilizing their white privilege. They are putting their bodies between police officers and black people. That's leveraging your privilege. So I'm not asking you to all go do that because I know that's not possible, but what I'm saying is put yourself in the gap between privilege and disadvantage. What can you do to build a bridge? And from there, I think we can all start, working on things and humble ourselves. But that's really what privilege is. It's just advantages that you have that others don't have.